watching, Thomas. My brother, very critical of my lighting scenario last week. So any excuse to buy a new bit of gear. So hopefully, Thomas, my brother, if you're watching, mate, nice new camera, new audio setup.
You'll end up with one of them halogen circles that all the influencers have.
Yeah, they get them on the desk, but they'll have them. You've got yours, mate. You just got to put yours. Put yours on like the other side of your desk. No, but if you stick it on the desk shining back at you, mate, you'll look a 9 out of 10.
I'm not sure more light on my face is good for anyone, mate. But this actually come with the house, so it's just sort of here with my plant. So
nice.
Yeah, just a bit of character, mate. Feng shui.
Hey, we're renting at the moment, so there's not a lot of character, mate, going around here. It's all pretty dire.
Big fan of the ironing board. I've never owned an ironing board.
I've only had to start using it this year working at KPMG. Ironing my shirts is something I didn't do since I used to be worked on the door at a nightclub. That was the last time I used to iron my shirts.
Yeah, wow. I wouldn't know how to do it.
Mate, it's not a. But like last week, so we had the first episode of Running for Resilience, or the Running for Resilience podcast, and we just winged it. I thought we did it right. I thought I enjoyed the chat. We had about 3 or 4 people watch it, so that's pretty good. Good start.
I think you did well. I'll just answer the questions, mate. I'm happy with that format.
Well, and that's so my favourite. I think I was saying last week, my favourite podcast is just 4 mates. Started it during COVID. They used to play poker together all the time, but then lockdowns, and they wanted to catch up with each other, and so they just started doing it once a week. They just jump on for an hour, have a yarn, and it is the best. It's so good. I mean, these guys are all like super successful guys, super bright. But just the format of 4 guys sort of brainstorming each week. Each one brings different view and opinion to the table, and that's what I know it's early days, and hopefully Breeny might join us at some point. The godfather of Running Resilience, Matt Breen, but
Matt Scarface Breen.
Well, what's he done? Oh, the Godfather, yeah. But if we keep enjoying it, we can make this an event in our calendar, and then the session will always be up, and we can record it, and then whoever makes it.
To be a bit more serious, I suppose it's a bit like the writing, mate. You got to do it because you want to do it, and if someone else enjoys it, if 2 people enjoy it, well, that's good. If they don't, who cares? If you're enjoying it and getting something out of it, I enjoy it. I enjoy talking about stuff like this. I mean, I don't know. I suppose sort of struggled to have. A lot of my mates wouldn't want to, in the past, schoolmates and that, like they don't sort of discuss a lot of things that I suppose we all discuss together and whatever. So it's good. I've sort of been, lack of opportunity to talk about it. So I've got a bit of shit sort of loaded up, ready to go on just about all topics. But not that I'm an expert on any.
Mate, I feel the same. I mean, my mates, like even we have been chats on Twitter, and I think let's just chat about what you were having that debate after that Nathan Pete tweet.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I should dare, and no, I won't try and find it. But to give a bit of background, rugby league, they have banned from what year? From 2025 or 2026. So they're phasing out. Kids can't play or under a certain age can't play for like points. It's just or titles. It's just that kids are only allowed to really play for fun. Is that?
Yeah, how I presume it'll work, and I probably should have read about it a bit more than I have, but how I presume it'll work is so by 2025, under 13s and down won't play for competition points. They won't keep score. And so I imagine from next year, it'll start at under 10s. So by the time those kids get to 2025, they'll be the under 13s. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I guess that's how it's going to work. I just find it funny the backlash, like the outrage around it. Like, who gives a shit? Like, especially the like.
Why do you think they give a shit? What, like, I'm not in the rugby league community, but why do they give it a shit? Do you think it's why kids are going to grow up to be soft, or
that's what I asked.
Avoid the realities of life. Why do people love something?
That's what I asked that guy when I sort of mentioned, people like yourself. Like, but I didn't even. I thought I might have got fact checked on that, but I thought you didn't play rugby till you're 13, right? And
12. I didn't start till I was 12.
So I one sec. First guest.
Big fella. There we go.
So I said to that guy, like, what's your fear out of all this? Like, are you scared that we're not going to have as many national champions or something like that? Because while kids are still playing sport at 8 to 13, and like not being competitive, do you really think that's going to have an impact on how many, how good Australia is as a sporting nation? Because I just can't see it. And I don't know if that's what I was trying to get out of him. Like, what's your actual fear? Why do you hate it so much? Why are you so against it? Because I'd say, like, I don't know what it is, but I reckon, like, people who are that petrified of it, like, it's got to be something else, I think. And I don't know what it is, but like,
what you say, like, in this, so for a bit of context, Sammy and I got into not an argument, but we were chatting with this guy in a Twitter thread about Nathan Pete. Is he a current rugby league player or is he retired?
Yeah, so he plays in the Super League. He played maybe a couple of Origin games for New South Wales. He's a pretty good footballer. He played half a season.
He retweeted an NRL, what was it, an NRL announcement about it, and then he tweeted caption or quoted, it was like, I might as well give everyone a first place award, like the every kid's a winner sort of mentality, which is not, I think, Nathan Pete, that's not what this is designed for. Like,
no,
it's about getting kids to enjoy sport, but we still, when they get older, that's when everything in life is a competition. Competition to buy a house, for a job, like a partner in life, with everything. We are competing in everything we do. And that's what I think some people are like missing the point, and there is something else. I don't know what. I've got an idea, but what do you?
Yeah, mate, it might just come down to, I don't know, maybe a bit of bitterness, maybe, or just
change. I reckon it's just change. They're like, oh, what, wouldn't have done this before?
It's just change verse, or they don't understand and can't be bothered to learn.
Well, and that's that article that you shared, was the one that the head of Athletic Performance Rugby Australia shared with me. And so if anyone is watching, the article goes on about how Norway is per capita the best sporting nation on the planet now. And they talk about, the article then contrasts it with the US and the two approaches to sport. So in Norway, the government fund like registration and make it really cheap and easy for kids to get in sport, because they know if they keep them active into their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, the government saves a lot of money in healthcare in the long run.
It's an investment.
And an investment, exactly. And so kids only play for fun until a certain age, and they don't get kids to just play one sport. They're encouraged to play lots of different sports and be generalists and just play for fun. And then as they get a bit older, if they really love it, then you can start to specialise in sport.
Well,
they can trust it with the US, where there is so much pressure on young kids to succeed, to get a college scholarship, to, make it big on the world stage, and become filthy rich and drag. You found that there's all this pressure, or family pressure, on kids to succeed so they don't. Sport is not about enjoying anymore. In the US, it's now a way to like climb up in life. And kids, what's the average age in the US? A kid stops playing sport as 11. It's like year 5. The average kid is now just going.
You haven't even learned what you like by then.
Mate, I never even started playing rugby at 11. I never
Mm.
even heard of rugby. We live in the US. I didn't know the difference between union or league when I was 11.
And
But
I think
kids in the US, they feel so much pressure because it's like win at all costs mentality.
And I think there's a few things in this. Like there would have been people seem to love being outraged by headlines, and headlines are designed to outrage people, so they click on them. But also, so there would have been a lot of people.
That was an NRL article. That was the NRL one he retweeted. Was the NRL? It was from them, so they're not trying to create a sensationalist headline. Like if it was the media covering it, I
thought it could have been Fox League or Daily Telegraph or whatever, but you could have a non sort of radical headline, and someone can interpret it in a radical way, without reading the article or reading the article properly. But I just couldn't understand just why you'd let something like that make you so fucking furious.
But that's Twitter, mate. That's like a lot of people just love getting angry about stuff. And so for that one guy that got really angry, there might be 100 people that read it and went, oh, yeah, that's good. But they're not getting all picked up about it and getting into arguments about it. But...
And I think, like I said to him, I was like, what's the purpose of sport, right? Like sport isn't played so that the absolute minority who manage to, play it for a living for a short period of time and potentially make a living out of it, like a good living and be wealthy forever or whatever, which is like an even smaller percentage again. That's not the purpose of sport. If that was the purpose of sport, you wouldn't go to fucking Coolman Court Indoor Cricket Centre on a Tuesday night and see 50-year-olds drinking stubbies, then going into bat with their mate and playing indoor cricket. Do you know what I mean? That's not, or like you wouldn't play footy all winter and then play Oztag all summer. You know what I mean? They're missing the point.
What is the purpose of sport then?
It's, primarily like fun, enjoyment, I think, or like a fun, enjoyable, social way to also do something active, which is good for you. And if someone happens to be brilliant at it, cool, identify them, put them on this pathway, and if they're lucky enough and want it enough, then they might be part of that less than 1% that play that, are lucky enough to earn a living out of it. But like, that's like, imagine thinking that all junior sport was targeted at filtering through the shit to get your best. And like, that's not like, how many kids play any sport to under 16s and end up being professional? Like, I don't know what the percentage is, but it'd have to be less than 1%.
Yeah.
So
there's I don't know what the phenomenon's called, but even in music, it's like 99% of the money made from musicians goes to the top 1%. It's even less than that. Same with authors, people that write books. There are so many books, but 90-odd% of the book sales always goes to that top few percent. The same with money made on the internet. It's mostly going to the top.
Yeah. Or even wealth distribution in countries like India, or even I think in the whole world, I think like 90% of the world's money belongs to like 5% of the people in the world. Like,
there was on that the All In podcast, like we were talking about before. What did they say? It was American boomers, which is a seventh of the world population, or there's 70 million or something. I think it is 70 million US boomers, and they own a seventh of the world's population. So they're like, what's 70 million out of 7 billion? It's like 1%. They're 1% of the world's population.
They own 50% of the money.
But they've got 15 sort of percent of the money. So the US boomers are the biggest, like largest group. And then there's obviously that's more than the top, 0 point whatever percent.
Mm.
You Elon Musk's and your Jeff Bezos's. It's the US boomers, and Australian boomers. They decide they own all the real estate. They own most of the shares, all the big companies. And that's why you see in the US all these kids now, they're stopping playing sport, they're stopping working, and they just go, I'm just going to wait to inherit money. Because they just, too hard to get it. They're just so tired and stressed, and they can't function in a work environment where there is genuine stress.
Mate, it's overwhelming for young people now. Like, what I was talking to you about before, I had to fucking house sit for 15 months and not pay rent and like walk fucking people's dogs and like, water people's gardens and shit for 15 months and saved like mad, had no bills. That's the only way I bought a house. Like, that's on two incomes. So like we did that together for all that time and like had reasonable jobs too. Like if I was renting, I still wouldn't own a house. Like,
I feel sick hearing all those stories in the US about college debt. Like some people, they're like retiring from work and they've still got college debt, like university debts. And it's the one debt in the US where you can't go bankrupt and like have it wiped.
I think Australia's the same.
People are dying with college debt. They never managed to get rid of it. And that just, that makes me nauseous to think. Like I'm lucky I managed to pay off my degree. I mean, it wasn't a great degree, sports journalism. Especially started it before the internet really took off, and the internet. I started in 2003, so there was the internet, but the internet really boomed through the sort of the 2000s to 2010, and journalism jobs in general have plummeted. Like there's way less than what there used to be. As you can now just pull your news from where again now all the journalism money because the internet I can subscribe to the New York Times or whatever. Journal, like I can now. I don't need to just rely on the Canberra Times. Like I had a few mates in the Canberra Times, and over the years they've just kept every year they're just getting less stuff. Just in the nature of the internet, I guess.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a good thing. Like the access of it. Like you don't have to sit down at 6 p.m. every night now and fucking make sure you're watching the telly because otherwise you'll have no idea what's going on in the world. And you can choose what news you want to watch. You know what I mean? But a lot of mornings I'll get into work and just flick through like a couple of news sort of sites. And that way I can, if it's something I'm sick of, like COVID or whatever, I'm not going to read that today. And it makes it quicker too, because if you only, after the news you're after, you don't have to sit through half an hour of it. You can just flick through what you want.
I can't stand I don't watch news anymore after COVID.
Nah.
It's just so clear how they push people's buttons. They make everyone scared because then that's when you need the news. Exactly. And I don't want to bag the media. They're super important roles, all the media. But for the most part, we're so connected now, I reckon that important news will find you, whether you're through Twitter or someone will text you. Like if it's actually news that impacts my life, it will find me. Like I don't need to go looking for news.
Yep. It's the same reason why I put my phone on flight mode at night time. Someone goes, well, what if your fucking dad had a heart attack? Fuck, I'm not a cardiologist.
Call the hospital.
Like, my mum's a nurse and midwife. I'm a fucking road worker. Like, why would you ring me? I'll be up soon. You know what I mean? Sort him out and I'll come see him or whatever. My kid, like my little family's here. So they'll let me know if something, like I'll know if something's wrong with them.
That's all your responsibility. That's all your responsibility is what's in that house.
Yeah. Like, and what's the good of waking me up at 2 a.m. to say, so-and-so's sick? Oh, cool. I'll just get a shit night's sleep and then I'll, stress about what I'm going to tell my boss and I'm going to get up to Canberra to see him or whatever. Like, just tell me when I wake up. I don't know,
I think that's just from like people are really anxious these days and they're worried about the worst case scenario. What if this happened? What if that? Well, that's probably not going to happen. So, I mean, what are the odds? Like,
mate, as a
Yeah, I actually had this chat with someone, a mother at work at KPMG, and didn't have my phone with me at lunchtime. I put it in the locker, and she's like, "What? You don't have your phone on you?" I'm like, "Yeah, if I have my phone on me while I'm working, I'm distracted and I don't do good work." And she goes, "But what if the school call? What happens if this?" And I go, "Well, they'll probably call my wife, or if they're sick, they'll go to the hospital." And like
if your kid falls off the monkey,
the odds of that happening, yeah.
If they fall off the monkey bars and break their arm, they're going to call the ambulance before they call you. And if it was different to that, you'd be like, "Why'd you ring me?" Like, when you found that out, you'd be like, "Fucking ring the ambulance, dude!" Like, you know what I mean? Like, call me back. Like, yeah. We used to live without him. You know, like,
yeah.
It was so not like up until even like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was weird to have. It was like mind blowing to have internet on your phone. 15, 20 years ago, only probably, a minority of the population had a mobile phone. Like, I think it's probably like a comfort thing, like where is it? I need it. Like, you don't as much as you think,
Oh, no way. No way. And it's like, it's the information. Like, I need to know. People think they need to know all this stuff. And I think that's what's making their brains so full. And that's why I'm enjoying writing, and I'm trying to absorb less information these days. Like,
yeah. Only what's relevant.
Less go in. Pardon?
Only what's relevant.
Yeah, but it's hard to know what's relevant until you've had a little taste of everything, and then you realize, actually, that's just that's entertainment. It's hard to know what information is entertainment and just helping pass the time, and what's actually, like you said, relevant.
It's like, that's so true, and I feel sometimes like I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball, and I don't know if it's because fucking ADD and being underdeveloped or whatever. But I'm like, really, like in the last year or so, like really starting to fucking feel like I'm getting there in terms of like figuring out, like I've just let so much shit go, and stuff that I was scared to let go. Not even alcohol, like not even talking about that, and just like
what? Give us an example of something you let go now that you
like, for example, last year, right? I'd watch every single rugby league show on KO, right? Because I was like, well, fuck, what if something happens and then I don't know about it before the weekend, and it might affect the multi I put on, or like, and then like, and this year I've just been like, I've just even naturally, not even actively, like, I don't watch any TV show every single week. There's not a TV show that I make sure I watch every single week. Like, I just don't care.
I watch All In podcast every week. That's the only thing I watch. Watch a little bit of Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And then All In once a week without fail. I
think I said the other day in a chat there that I reckon, mate, it won't be long until there's no free-to-air TV, because, like, we don't need it. And podcasts are all video podcasts now, and, like, YouTube is essentially, you can watch stuff live, like, like Bloke in the Bar podcasts on YouTube every few days, whatever his episodes are, or, like, and people know they're on and they tune in and watch them. And it's more young people. When those young people get older and they're used to watching, their information online, if they're already watching most of their stuff online, they're just not going to watch TV. Because they're already not. So why would they change? Why would they go back?
They're not going back. They're not going. Yeah, no one goes back. It's like who goes back to riding horses? It's just done as a hobby. So
yeah,
we've got cars now. We've got planes. We're not going back to horses. But yeah,
I mean, yeah, like you can ride a horse to ride a horse, but you're not going to fucking use a horse to bring a load of topsoil to your house.
No, there's better ways, better and easier ways to do it now.
I've seen it.
Yeah, but I mean, and then with this, like, what would you like to get out of doing this podcast? Like,
Mate, I
We
just
just started last Friday, just on a whim. Now we're doing episode 2, and
selfishly, I like the way that conversations like this, or comment sections on Substack, or just conversations in WhatsApp groups or whatever, they're starting to really change. And I suppose throw in, getting more clarity through sobriety and stuff. It's genuinely starting to change the way that I think. And I like that. Like, it's
what's changing? Like what? Give us an example.
Things are just like making more sense to me in regards to sort of myself. Like, and I'm finding links. I'm going to struggle for examples here, but I'm finding, like, I'll be having a conversation.
More positive, more optimistic.
Yeah, and it's easier for me now than ever before to process my thoughts. And I think it might be too because I'm finding links between talking about certain things. I'm like, well, that's sort of relevant to that we were talking about the other day, and I'll talk about that to that person, and like it sort of just comes together, and it'll help me form like my own views or on a topic, or like process. Like I might have like a thought that I've sort of been considering, and then I'll hear something elsewhere, and it'll like trigger that same thought, but then it'll make more sense to me. You know what I mean? It's I'm still sort
of. What do you think the comment section and your Substack, our WhatsApp groups, what is it about that's helping you connect the dots and the conversations in that? What, like, obviously, like you said, maybe your brain's a bit clearer from being sleeping well, sobriety, and all that, or
different perspectives. When like you got something on your mind or whatever, and you might be trying to figure it out a little bit, and then like you'll just hear someone say it or something similarly, but not the same, and you'll be like, fuck, that's what I was looking for. Like, that just made what I was trying to process heaps clearer. You know what I mean? I understand it better. It's like when Cam said, like, I was talking about how hard you'll work to convince yourself that you're doing, like that you're sweet, like you might be bendering every weekend or whatever, but because you pay your bills and you do your job, there's nothing wrong. And he said, yeah, it's because you convince yourself of that. You then convince yourself that that's how other people view you. And I was like, fucking boom, like, of course. Do you know what I mean? Like, to me, that made all the sense in the world, but I hadn't had the ability until he said that to see it like that.
And is that because as a group, we've got sort of collective brain power? Like, so for me, I feel like for a long time I've been caught in my own head, especially the first year and a half I was retired. Before I started my Substack, everything was in my head and I was trying to figure everything out for myself. But now we've got the group of the Riders of Resilience. We're just all being open, and our brains, I don't know if there's this collective problem, but our brain, we're just all being open. And as Brainy said, steel sharpens steel, or we're like collectively thinking now and solving problems as a group rather than all being caught up inside our own head trying to solve the problems on our own.
Firstly, I think we have a common sort of ground there in the sort of fact that we all run. And I think if you run for enjoyment, there's something wrong in your head. And we all do that. You know what I mean?
The bloke that ran a marathon on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. For no real reason. I mean, there was obviously some reason, but I didn't need to. But yeah, I think it's a lot more common when people share common interests. They probably have more in common than they realize. So you take a collective of people who run, right? And then out of that, you find people who have found that when they write about how they think, it helps them think better and clears their mind and stuff. So then that becomes a smaller group. You've already got those things in common. And then it's like we have enough in common, but we're just different enough too. And our life, and we sort of come from different parts of the world too. Like Cam was saying, he was doing hospitality while he was in uni. I'm not sure what he does. Brainy, got an
He's an engineer. I think he studied engineering. His dad's an engineer, and he'd studied it, but dropped out and opened a cafe. And
so he's got that experience. Brainy's a qualified accountant, but doesn't use it. Like I finished school in year 12 and just went to work, and I've worked my way up to, sort of what I do now. And obviously you did what you did playing sport. And so you got these people with
Milk Bar Nick, we got the DJ, Milk Bar Nick, and 40 the radio host.
Yeah. So DJ come IT guru. I can't make sense of his job title. Is like a owner or partner. I don't get it, but whatever.
He manages a part of Xero, the accounting software. So he's in charge of the team that builds a part of it. I'm not sure which bit he's building at the moment, but because Xero's massive now.
Yeah,
he manages the team. Yeah.
But I think that's sort of like the recipe, because like I was saying before about my mates that I grew up with, they're all tradesmen and fucking love rugby league and drinking schooners, and that's great. Like I love them, they're my mates. But that's what I have in common with them, or did have, and that's cool. But I think when you consider you got this group of people who sort of have these things in common and probably never realized how much they had in common until someone like yourself grouped them all together, but then also consider that they come from different backgrounds and different upbringings, and they all have, so almost think similarly into sort of some of the same stuff, but come from a different perspective. And I guess everyone in there is open to challenging themselves and challenging the way they think, and considering other viewpoints, and without being an asshole to someone who thinks differently to them. I think that's what's helped me a lot, is because you teach yourself to be able to consider other people's viewpoints, to be empathetic and that kind of stuff. I think you can teach yourself that. But if you're not exposed to it through meeting someone with a different viewpoint, then you never get challenged. And I think getting challenged to think differently is, or challenged to consider someone else's point of view, I think that's where you're going to, find your improvement. Like that's where you'll find your growth, I think.
And I never really considered the makeup of the writers, that we all got a couple of things in common, but there's enough all our life journeys are all very different. So we bring different perspectives that we're able to learn things from each other and challenge each other's thinking, and
even
to maybe because all my uni mates, we wouldn't talk about any of this stuff. They're all just, they're all got kids, and they just talk about work, or not that there's anything wrong with talking about work, or I'd be flat out trying to get them on a call to talk to them about this sort of stuff, like the stuff that we write about and talk about. And they might, after about 50 schooners, they might open up about that stuff. But
that was me. That was exactly me. 3 a.m. sitting around a fucking table in a stranger's house, just talking about, my views on mental health or politics, or how, is the government doing enough for, people with depression, or is there enough funding for mental health or whatever, to people who.
Why does it take till 3 a.m. around a table? What is it? I know when we've been on, our boys or uni mates have been on massive benders. I'm trying to remember whose Bucks party. We had one up at Central Coast somewhere a few years back. And it was supposed to go to the horse races, and bucketed down. The races got cancelled. So we just went to a brewery, and we just ended up back at, the boys sat up. I went to bed at about 10 p.m. just because I can't stay up late. But I got up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. just to piss, and they're all still sitting there, all hugging each other, talking around the table, talking about, I know it's pretty sad, after 6 or 7 hours sleep. I thought it was a bit so, what the fuck are they talking about? Like, and they're all like, they got so deep on each other. Like, oh, it's pretty funny.
It's obviously.
But why is it? Why does it? Is that the final moment where they've finally let their guard down and they can go? This is what I really think.
Yeah.
Like they're not. It's a moment where they feel really comfortable to be themselves. Or
so I think like you have the excitement of it, because that's like alcohol in essence too. Like it's a depressant, right? But you don't. Initially, it picks you up, and then it starts bringing you back down. That's why people always cry when they're drunk later on. You know what I mean?
But when it picks you up, is it just because I think it's the moment you start forgetting about all the stresses in life. It's not actually the alcohol's not picking you up.
It's
bringing you to where you should. It's bringing you to where you should be. It's by helping you forget about all the stresses that are bogging you down. You start worrying. You forget about all your stresses and you rise to where you normally are, and then
it's where you should be and would be if you had a more positive mechanism to deal with your stress, right?
Yes.
Rather than
that's what I reckon.
Which is fucking hard. Like I can say that, but it's so hard. Especially
how you change your habit for how you deal with stress it's one of the hardest things you can do. For me, it used to be booze. Like I was really good at getting off it when I was playing. Yeah. So I just realized if I drank on the weekend, I trained like rubbish during the week.
Yeah.
And I'd gone through periods, or when I got my first contract. Well, no, sorry, even before that, I was at UC and I got injured. And I was in the Brumbies Academy, but I had blown out. I was up to 130 kilos. I was on the piss 3 or 4 nights a week. UC were going to kick me out of uni, and the Brumbies were going to kick me out of the academy. They were like, I'd failed all my uni subjects. I was turning up to training hungover, overweight, injured. And the now team manager, Bill Swain, back then, this is in 2004, he was the Brumbies Academy team manager, and he goes, mate, we're going to kick you out. You're not taking this seriously. And I was like, begged them, come, please, let me just one more chance. And they're like, you're on your last warning, Alexander. And so I moved off campus and moved in my grandparents, who lived in Western Creek, and my grandmother was a part of Weight Watchers. So she knew she'd lost weight herself and was big on eating well. And so I lost 15 kilos that summer, like eating really well. My grandparents, riding my bike to training, riding my bike everywhere. I got really fit and made the Australian under-21s, got my first contract, but then snapped my leg, lost my contract. And then, but anyway, to get it back, it took me a year. I would go play in England. And then when I came back, I got off the piss again because I got on a big time in England. Then I came back.
That's what you went there.
No contract. Pretty much. Like you should hear. Have you? So that's a story for another day, drinking piss in England. But I went to another period of staying off it. And that, I don't know how we got onto this, me staying off the piss. What was the point of...
about how you get to that point. Why is it, you start using it as a stress relief or...
I used to use piss. I couldn't handle the black dogs and me and my mates joke about it. Like we put black dog emojis after like big night out in our WhatsApp group. Like
the grog horrors.
We put the Baja men. Who let the dogs out? If we know someone's been out on a big, like it's a running joke and it's good because the boys are struggling, but we try and make light of the dogs. I just got sick to death. I was like, nah, can't handle this anymore.
Yeah.
And I knew I'd train like shit if I drank any piss on the weekend. So I got really good at going like, if I've got a game, I don't drink. If I have a game the next week, I didn't drink. But then come a bye week, we'd have big ones. And I was like,
it's like, to me, like it's very, it's similar but very different. I don't know if you saw the Ben Cousins documentary, and he would like pinpoint a bye week at the start of a season, right? And he'd know if it was middle of the season, the club would give him fucking 8, 9, 10 days off. So he'd mark it in the calendar and be like, I'm going to go on like a 4 or 5 day bender, like months out. And he'd be like, he goes, I used to get really pissed off on like day 4 or 5 when people start telling me to go home. I'd spent 10 grand and 5 days of hard work to get to this point. I'm not going to go home and ruin it. Like it's fucked up because that's like the reward system, right? Like you fucking.
There's a pressure release as well.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I was really similar to you in a sense that I could really easily not drink on a weeknight. On a school night, I could really, really easily not drink, or I could easily drink 8 mid strengths, 10 mid strengths on a weeknight. Like I might go to R4R and have 2 mids, go home, have another 6 when I get home, and I'd never be late for work the next day. But as soon as I didn't have any responsibilities the next day, it was just, and that was it. It was like the pressure release and knowing that you didn't have any responsibilities the next day, or none that couldn't be moved, or fuck it, I'll do it Sunday. Like, and then Sunday it become, I'll do it through the week in the Arvos. Then it got pushed to next weekend.
But that's becoming a dad. You've always got something on the next day. Like, you're on, always on.
Yeah,
I'm lucky. I'm off tonight. The kids are at my in-laws, but I've also gotten addicted to feeling really, really healthy and really good. It is addictive. As much. I think it's addictive. I think I've got a mate who he's in our Alfred chat. He's the one that was talking about ketosis and that.
Yeah.
He always talks. He keeps going through these phases where he forgets what it's like to feel great. He goes through this phase where he gets really fit and he feels awesome, and then he falls back into bad habits, and he just keeps going up and down, up and down. But yeah, people do forget what it's like. I got another mate,
100%.
He was coming to park run for a bit, and he was loving it. And then he stopped for a while, and then he came back maybe 6 months later, did one, and then he messages everyone after going, "Oh, so good, how good! I forgot how good it is." And you're like, how do you forget what it's like getting that runner's high? But people forget what it's like to feel awesome, and they think feeling tired is normal and scattered. People think that is normal, and it's common, but it's not normal.
It becomes their normal, and I think that the problem is because I'm the same. Like I've talked about, I've sort of gained and lost sort of around 25 kilos 3 separate times since I was 18. Since being diagnosed, medicated and stuff's the longest I've sort of maintained a healthy weight. But I think because it happens so incrementally, you sort of just gradually drop off. And then you sort of, maybe because then so say if I train like 6-7 days a week at the moment. I think I trained every day in September, and that's too much. I know that. But if I wake up and I feel like training, I'm going to train. I should have rest day, yeah. But this is a fucking habit that I picked up when I stopped drinking, and it's just what I need to keep doing for now. So, like...
You can pull back whenever.
What's that?
You can pull back whenever.
Yeah. But if I was to start, like, dwindling, right, over a couple of months, say 3 months' time, I'd got to a point where I wasn't training at all. I reckon I would look at myself from that point and compare myself to right now and be like, it's too fucking hard, because that's what I would expect from myself. It's too hard to get from where I am now back to that, rather than I'm just going to eat good tomorrow and go for a walk because I'll feel better. You know what I mean? Like, the goal for me always was to get thinner or leaner or faster, or, it's only sort of recently, and it probably came with a bit of age and maturity, I suppose, to sort of shift the motivation to just, it's the fucking right thing to do for me.
I also think as you're confident, like for me, as I've become more confident, I don't feel I need to chase these extreme challenges. Like I don't need to. But,
and if
I know when I first retired, I was really down about retiring, and that spurred me on to run the 18 minutes something park run. Like I was really needed to run hard and run good times to make myself feel proud of myself. But now there's so much more in my life that I'm really proud of. I just don't feel the desire to go out and have to like really push myself at exercise. It's just there to enjoy.
That was like me last year. I averaged 100K a week for the last 6 months of last year, and I ran all my PBs in that period. I think, yeah, I would have, because I ran my marathon PB, the virtual Blackmores, but it was postponed, so it was actually in like September, instead of whenever it was this year, a few weeks ago. And like that's cool. Like I'm happy that I did that. You know what I mean? I think it's a pretty cool thing to have done, but I'll never do it again. Like no way, because I don't need to. I didn't need to then, but I've done it now, and I don't need to do it again. And I'm gonna try and run a marathon PB either at Canberra or Gold Coast next year, but I'm gonna have a very different approach. Like I'm going to try and have a heap smarter approach to it. Run less Ks, run quality Ks. Like have a plan and something of a plan anyway. You know, like, but only because I thought I was a chance of a PB at Canberra, and I got COVID 6 weeks earlier, and I was still only 12 minutes off my best time 6 weeks after COVID. So I was like, I feel like, and it's in me. Like I'm like, I fucking want to try and beat it. If I try and beat it and I don't beat it, who gives a shit? I'm still funny.
But then I think there's a difference trying to do a crazy challenge and trying to beat your PB. They're two totally different things.
Yeah.
You try to some challenge to get self. Well, I mean, it's awesome to challenge yourself, but I'm the same as you. I just exercise now each day because I know I'll feel better if I do it. And that's all I need. Like if I do some exercise today, I'll feel better than if I don't. And yeah, like sometimes I have these thoughts of wanting to run a fast half marathon and, you know, get back under 20 in my park run. And maybe I will. But I don't know, the desire to really push hard is just not there anymore.
Especially once you got it in the bank too, right? Like I remember when I went under 20 minutes for 5K, I was like,
oh, you did it R4R. I remember that night. And I didn't know. I go, who is that bloke? I think did Tyson or Google or someone pace you that night?
Tice was. How's this?
And I was going, what? I think I was running with Brainy. I go, what's going on there? That bloke's flying.
Tyson was pacing me, and he's me. Like,
he loves the pace. Tyson
it makes him feel good, I think. But he's pacing me, right? And he's good at it. He's talking to me. He's like, righto, that was a 3:45. You picked up 15 seconds, and that'll be handy later, and blah, which is cool. Fucking Liam caught up to us. Like, I don't know how far behind us he was, but he catches up to us, and we're running like 3:55s or 3 whatever. And just starts yapping to me. Right, it pulls up alongside me at like 3:55s, and he's just been running.
I think he ran a sub 17 park run last Christmas Day.
I think he might have gone under 17 this year.
Yeah, he's earlier this year. We've got to get him on he's another guy that should be riding. We'd love to get him on because he's a really interesting guy, Liam. He's had some really rough patches. I think he lost his dad.
Yeah.
His mum's been sick, so he's had some really rough times. But he was getting into his running early this year, and he was like coming top 3. He won an event. Yeah, he never trains.
He was I think he was like in New Zealand, like a state runner or a junior national runner or something. He's fucking fast. But
they don't have state. They got Shires or
whichever. I don't know if he represented his island.
Paddocks, in which paddock he represented or something.
Yeah. Well, whatever the case, he's fucking fast. And I just remember being like, that's insulting. Like he caught up to me and I was like, like battling, because it's 6Ks. Obviously, I got to 5. I was like, I'm fucking walking this last one. Like, no way am I running anymore.
It's like there's a dad that runs at the Gungahlin Park Run, and he pushes a pram.
Yeah,
and he runs sub 20 with a pram. And I remember running really hard one year, and he just cruised straight past me with his pram. And I'm just like,
And that's the thing with these goals, right? That you set, like you set them for yourself, but like ultimately they don't fucking mean a thing, you know.
No.
And I think that's
just a bit of fun.
Exactly.
Just a bit of fun.
And that's what I think is a good thing. If people want to set them and challenge themselves, and like that's awesome. Like challenge yourself to be better. You want to be better, like do some work and get better. That's good. And I think it proves to you that you can do things that you can't currently do if you work towards them. That's awesome. But I think the safety in it is that it doesn't. There's no. What's the worst thing that happens if you run 20 minutes 20 seconds but your previous best is 21? Who gives a shit?
PB.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and if you don't run a PB, like I've always said, a shit run is better than not running. Like, even if it's like you felt worse than you ever have, you still ran.
I did 40 on Twitter today. I think he said it was yesterday. He's like, I hadn't been feeling great, but got a great run in today. Like he said, I'm coming good. And I think he made reference to like a few weeks run earlier in the week. It was like body wasn't feeling it, but he just got out and did something.
Yeah.
And then those runs that he didn't feel like doing, but he still got done, they added up to a really great run at the end of the week.
And what I used to think about runs when you didn't want to run, and even if they were shit, some of my best runs ever have been runs where I didn't want to run. But even if you have a bad run on a day where you didn't want to run, you've just trained your brain for when you're in a marathon and you're fucking battling and you don't want to be in it anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like,
so why do you think people don't want to do them? Like, what's the main reason why people just they can't get their brain in the spot to want to do them? Like my mate who got me in running, who's the one that was posting about ketosis, he's got a little trick that he goes, I've just got to put my shoes on. That's
100%.
That's all he thinks about. If you get your shoes on, he ends up going for the run.
If I get out of bed,
starts thinking about all the run and the pain of running, it just all becomes too much. So he just goes, nah, just got to get my shoes on or just get out the door.
And I think don't give yourself an opportunity to talk yourself out of it. That's why I go to the gym first thing in the morning. If my alarm goes off and I get out of bed, I go to the gym every single time. And that's why I charge my phone on the ground. It forces me to get out of my bed. Next to my phone is my clothes for the gym. I've got to go. Like once I'm out, like, and you go first thing in the morning, you don't get the opportunity to talk yourself out of it through the day. So once you've been to the gym already, you can still have a shit day, but the gym's done. Whereas if you plan on going to the Arvo, a couple shit things happen.
And you've got to remember all day, you've got it in your head, I've got to get to the gym.
You got your clothes in the back of your car and you see them and you're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to go. Like, like whatever. Like even if you do it first, it's done. I'm the same with running. Like the hardest part of any run, unless it's a fucking long one, like of any training run or easy run or whatever, the hardest part is exactly that. It's just putting your shit on and leaving the house. Like I think so. And I just tell myself, like, I never ever, I don't know how people start fast. I can't do it. Like, or their version of fast, but I just tell myself, fucking take as long to walk, like run slow for as long as you need to. Because it's like we've been talking about, like with friction, like if you want to go and do something, you got to take as much friction away as you can, and often, like, by friction, that can be your own expectations of yourself. You know what I mean?
That's my mate. My mate that got me into running. He's been running for ages, but at parkrun each week, he just cannot help himself. We've talked about pacing a million times before, but he just can't help it. He just, as soon as the whistle goes or they say go, he has to sprint. He just has to. I don't know what it is, and I think maybe he just needs to get in the hurt locker. And I think because he feels really proud of himself in that moment. It's so funny. You watch the start of every park run, he's running with his dog, and he just takes off, absolutely off like the clappers in the lead in front of everyone. And then he dies in the ass on the way back every time. Still does a good time. Like, he's still quick. He's still rapid, but he could do a much, much better time if he paced himself. And we've talked about it so often, but he just can't help it. come 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, he is so agitated and just needs to get going. And he just needs to get in the hurt locker. His brain just craves getting in the hurt locker every Saturday. And I don't know what he does during the week.
Maybe it's because there's a deadline. Like there's a fixed time when it starts, and he knows it. So even in the back of his mind,
nervous. He's done over 100 park runs, and before every park run, he's so. I think, and his brother John. It's John. The ice problem. It's his brother, and John told you about all that, didn't he? Yeah, he told us all about. Right, yeah, it's his brother, Grift. If you ever listening, mate, love you to bits. But and John was saying, Grifty, he is just the most competitive bloke. He's got to beat everyone, and he just works himself up so much nervous energy. And I used to get it with footy. You'd get so wound up, so nervous. As soon as the game would start, the ref blows his whistle, you'd fly out of the blocks and you'd go a million mile an hour, but then you'd burn out.
And that's
and teams catch in the second half. And the All Blacks were the kings of it. They'd come out reasonably able to pace themselves, and they would lift, and they'd finally hit their straps with about 5 minutes to go before half time, or even just after half time. That's when they really get into third, fourth, fifth gear.
I think this could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I've heard that the All Blacks like to use an American Navy saying that says slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And
I've heard it, but I don't know if the All Blacks used it, but you look at a timeline of a game, and when Australia played, we always come out hard, but then we always looked at, even with Brumbies, it was always the second half, or the last half of a half, or they'd break down like how many points you'd leak per 10 minutes.
And now they got the GPS too.
Yeah, and you've never been looking for points scored or leaked in, like, you do a comparison. Some teams were really good in the first 20 minutes.
We start well, we finish well.
They'd get well hot. Yeah, they'd start, like a lot of teams may always lead after 20, like they come out hard, but then they're not fit, and then they fall away and they leak heaps of points in the second half. But the All Blacks, I mean, sometimes they'd come out hard and score early, but they'd always get you just towards the end of each half.
Yeah.
They were just, their point differential in the last, like traditionally, especially when I played them, not so much at the moment. They're a bit stinky at the moment, but they're still pretty awesome, but they're just not as good as some of the great All Black sides. But they would always get you in that back half of each half. And right when they wear you down, it's like if a running race, they'll sit behind you, and then you'll know they're right behind you, and they'll just wear you out a little bit, and you're in the lead, but you always you're wasting a bit of energy looking over your shoulder, and then you're starting to get a bit tired, and then they'll just kick on, and they'll get a couple of tries, and they'll just take off.
It's like they're comfortable from behind.
I mean, you can see with a heap of footy teams, if you watch enough of any sport, well, especially rugby union, league, AFL, you can see the teams, like their average, like their pace.
It's like
some teams are fast starters, especially in rugby. You get South Africa, they were hard starters. They would always start really hard, and if you could match them early on, you usually could kick on and
or even
the second half.
Even concede a try in the first 20. You got a stronger, last 60.
Yeah, but if they'd come out hard, and if they built a big lead, you'd really struggle to run them down.
It's like
South Africa and England are very similar to that. You had to come out fast and put pressure on them.
It's like Penrith in the league. When in the qualifying final for the grand final, they were down 12-0 to South, and they had 3 tries disallowed, and 2 of them definitely no tries. Third one, I'm not sure. But even before they scored the 2 tries to go to 12-all at halftime, I said to my mate, Penrith will win 30-12. And they won 32-12 because you could see they were working into it. They were getting scoring opportunities, And they're just once they're in gear, like they just don't concede. And then the same thing happened in the grand final. They scored 2 early tries.
Well, they came out of the block. They were sprinting out of the blocks, and then they built a lead, and then they didn't worry that they were a couple hundred meters ahead of Para, and Para could just never. When if you're trying to, you can tail someone, you can stay really close with them. But if there's too much of a gap, you can't quite.
Yeah. The slipstream's not there.
Slipstream, no. Penrith got too much of a gap, and Para couldn't hang with them.
And I think they're the kind of team that once they're in front, you just can't beat them.
But I just find like all these running analogies, I see they're so applicable to like all sports. Especially with basketball, I love watching the Warriors, and they were always kings of the third quarter.
Yeah,
they especially when they'd won a few titles, they'd just rock up into any game, so lethargic, and because they knew, and they'd always be down at halftime. One season, they were always down at halftime by 20 points or something. But then they go, right, let's kick into gear, and then they just started draining threes, and
maybe in their second quarter they get their minutes from their bench.
Yeah,
because you want to manage your minutes of your stars. I never watched it that closely, but maybe that was something they did. But I love that in any sport. I love when a team has composure when they're losing and a belief that they're going to win. Like they are convinced they're going to win, even though they're currently losing. It's like Kipchoge, man. Like, I don't know if you watched the Berlin, but like, or even in London, man, at London Olympics, he at 30 Ks.
I watched the Olympics. He cruised
30 Ks. He was with the pack, and he just goes, right, I'll go now. Like this isn't quick enough for me. Whatever, I'm out of here. And the commentator's saying, "Fuck, that's so bold." Like to run the last 12 Ks by yourself out of the pack. But he just gapped them and gapped them and gapped. It's like he just knew. It's like Winks is probably a good example. I can't remember the name of the jockey who rode Winks, but like even some of the ones she only won by a little bit. He's like, he'd be at the back of the pack on the last bend, like the very back. He's like, no, we're always winning it. Like, fuck, how cool are you? Like,
but that's the good thing about Penrith had it. They had the belief from the year before that they won it. They knew and that's something that we talk about in sport. And you got to believe. Of course, you've got to believe that you can win, but you can't fake that.
No,
you can't fake it. And it's so hard. Once you've got it, and building it takes forever. And once you've got it, it's pretty hard to lose. Once you've got it,
it's
when it becomes that habit.
It's belief in your systems too, right? Like belief and trust in the systems and the training. Yeah, like and everyone buying in. Like there was a guy on a podcast. He said like Penrith the whole team were playing to the game plan. Like he made a good point. Like they'd play a shift, and someone would get tackled like 3/4 like width, like on the scrum line, and the hooker couldn't get the dummy half, so the winger or the centre, and they might be 2 or 3 meters out from the try line. Any other team, that winger or centre gets the ball, they get white line fever and try and throw a dummy and dive over. But Penrith wouldn't do that. They give it to Cleary because that's their plan. Like they respect the game plan. They all are bought into the one mission, and they know their system works. So as tempting as it is for the 22-year-old winger in a grand final to grab the ball and try and dive over the line that's just there, they're just that well disciplined and have belief in their system and their game plan that I trust the coach and I trust the staff that the best thing for me to do right now is stick to the game plan and pass it to that bloke over there, even though I want to fucking score that, like put the ball down just there and have the
I never won a grand final, but I've been a part of some big wins. And I tell you, mate, there's not a better feeling than being in sync with your teammates and when you're firing as a team. Everyone's nailing their role. Like you just with minimal effort, it's like everything's just flowing. And it just mate, it's one of life's great feelings to just everyone, and it can not just be sport, it could be in business, it could be in anything. But when you're part of a team and everyone, you've all done the work, you're all super close, and you're going out and you're just executing to a T, it's an awesome feeling.
I assume it's similar to like, well, the closest thing I could have to relate is through work, where we did Ellerton Drive, which is like a bypass from the back of Jerrabombra out to the top of Queanbeyan. And like my biggest struggle with work is to get the average bloke to give a shit about what he's doing. To actually, they'll do their job to an acceptable standard, but they struggle to buy into the big picture and like actually wanting to deliver quality and whatever. Like if old mate's in the Bobcat, he thinks about being in the Bobcat. He doesn't think about the finish or whatever, right? But we were on this project and it was a long-term work and we were there nearly every day and we just fucking slowly developed a system. And it would just become repetition, and we got really, really good results, good ride count, won an award, blah, blah, blah. And that's the closest thing I can think of to relate. And I think why I say that too is I think it can be relatable to anyone who works in a team environment or in a team environment outside of work for whatever reason, you know, community groups or whatever. I think once everyone knows and understands their role, and they're not bitter or jealous or pissed off that person has their role and they want their role instead of the role they have, and people actually think, well, this is my job and I'm good at it, so I'll do this to the best of my ability because I trust the guy behind me is going to come past and do his bit. And instead of people having individualized goals of I want to get to that job, it's we want to complete this job to this standard. But I think that's like, especially like it's a team thing, right? So like you need to have a collective of people with the shared goal, with no, you know.
Mate, that's you'll feel, mate, if we achieve R4R's goal of making Canberra suicide-free by 2033, that we'll get that feeling and some. If we like all doing, you know, this podcast becomes a regular thing and a part of it, obviously all our riding, obviously all the running and anything else, whatever R4R is going to evolve into over the next 10 years. Who knows what's going to, but it's going to be awesome. And it already is. It's already been so much fun part of. But, mate, we've already talked for like an hour and a half. What couple of last questions before we probably sign off, because this file will go to my Google Drive, but it took about half an hour from when we log off. It took half an hour before it then appeared, and then I got to upload it to YouTube. Upload it to YouTube's pretty quick, but so I guess if it took half an hour, it's going to take over an hour. So I probably won't have this up on YouTube for a couple of hours. Not that it matters. But the two questions I wanted to ask you was, you said you go to the gym first thing in the morning. When do you ride? What's your riding routine? Because I ride first thing in the morning. I wake up and I come and ride.
I don't have a routine around it. I probably should. It's circumstantial. Depends how busy I am at work. Sometimes I'll do a little bit at work when I first get there in the morning. I get there before anyone else, and if there's not much happening, if there's nothing more pressing, I'll do it then. I do want to actually. I really should. It's tricky because I used to just ride it on Tuesday because that's the day, right? And then
that's your routine. Ride it on Tuesday,
and because it feels really weird. As much as I got full confidence in myself now, it feels really weird to write today I am this many weeks sober. Pretense.
Yeah, you want to write it at the moment, not write it on.
Close
Friday,
to.
Saying by Tuesday I'll be like.
You
want to stay in the mindset of just today.
Yeah, and also because I'm sort of. The premise, I suppose, like the idea at the start was to like sort of reflect on the week that was and how the challenge of staying sober, sort of how I dealt with it mentally, or if there were, you know, if if it
Oh, that
affected.
sounds like that's working. If you're using it as like we talked message the other day about monthly reviews, but it sounds like it's your weekly. On Tuesday, you do a weekly review like that. That's a really good process.
I would like to do it. I'd like to have it done by Monday, or roughed in, and I don't rewrite much of it. Timmy had a good idea of actually copying it, pasting it into Word, and then just getting it read back to you, so you don't have to read through it. Because I hate reading.
Have you installed the Grammarly browser?
Yeah, and that made a huge difference. That made a massive difference.
I've noticed less typos.
Yeah, and just if I get up and walk away for something, go to the toilet, or get young blokes carrying on or whatever, I can come back and sort of lose where I was at, or sort of where I was going with something, and then I'll instead of like a gradual bend in a story, it's like a fucking hook turn, you know what I mean?
And that's what I've found, having a routine around writing and being consistent. I don't even think about writing. I just think about how do I get my routine consistent. Yeah. I know I can sit down and do it. I've just got to
and that's
be organised at the time, and the writing just happens.
I mean, me and you carry on about it, probably drives people nuts, but that is the fucking absolute beauty of routine. If I get up at 4 a.m. and get out of bed and my clothes are there, I will go to the gym every single time because it's automatic. It's just routine, and then it's a good thing, right? You don't, and I'm not going to suggest ever that people should do what I do. I know 4 a.m. is fucking early, and I know people don't have to be at work by 7, and but make it relative. Make it relative to you, and honestly, for me, routine is just it makes even you talk about the monotonous daily bullshit. It makes that automatic, which is great. But even hard things like going to the gym, once you're there, you may as well do a bit. Once you do a bit, you want to do a bit more, and it just kind of happens. And after you go for a while, you build that trust. You're fuck, I feel like shit, but I know once I start, I'll feel a bit better. And then you go and like I said, some of my best runs ever have been runs I didn't want to go on. Some of my PBs were by accident. And I think that's the beauty of routine is you just put yourself in the position to do it. Just get yourself to the position, and it almost looks after itself.
Anyway, so the hardest part about rugby is showing up.
Yeah.
You don't go get bashed, and but having a routine makes it easy to show up.
Yeah, exactly right.
Once you show up, something will happen.
And one thing I've found has been so fucking helpful is giving myself more time than I need. For years and years and years, I was the guy who woke up. If it took me 27 minutes from the time I woke up to get to work, I'd wake up 27 minutes before I needed to be at work, and I'd start my day in a rush, and I'd never get out of it. You know what I mean? I'd be frantic and stressed. And thinking, though, oh, well, I'm getting more sleep. But what I've learned about sleep is you're going to sleep the same amount of time every day. If you get up at the same time every day, your body will calibrate and you'll get tired at the same time every night. So it's up to you when you go to sleep and or try to go to sleep, but it's certainly up to you when you wake up. But the difference it makes to my day, just having that fucking extra half-hour head start, and I'm pretty lucky. I can go to work and start doing work when I get there. You know what I mean? I can be at work at 6 a.m. and have a shower and be at my desk by fucking 20 past 6 and start working. Some people can't do that. I understand that, but that's something I can do, so I do it because I can, and it helps heaps. But just having that time, that extra time, give yourself half an hour in the morning, more than what you need. Go to bed half an hour earlier. Half an hour's fuck all, and it changes your whole day.
And on that, mate, I'm going to go to bed soon. I'm going to start winding down, mate.
Same.
I was going to ask you about your thoughts around paid Substack. Maybe we'll leave that for another week. Chat about that another time. But
Yeah,
mate, this has been awesome. As long as we keep enjoying it, let's keep doing it.
I love that you get rid of the kids for a night and go, fuck yeah, I'm going to go to bed at 7:30.
Yeah. No, I'm going to. Oh, well, no, I won't go to sleep just yet, but I'm going to start winding down. I'll probably hopefully be asleep not long after 8.
Yeah, I'm pretty keen to do the same.
So hopefully I'll have this up on YouTube for you tomorrow, mate. We can have our 3 or 4 viewers watch it again. But if we if we keep enjoying it, let's keep doing it.
Yeah, man.
Anyone else listening, the R4R Podcast, episode 2 in the books. Sammy Wilson, writer of Sobering Thoughts, with us. Knights fan, I didn't realise.
Yeah.
Eels? Oh, no, you're not Eels.
Yeah, no, for the first time in a long time, I've been able to wear some Knights kit with a bit of pride. So we won the women's grand final on the weekend, won it easy. So I was giving shit to my cousin. He's a Para fan. I said, I can't wait for Parramatta to lose 2 grand finals in one day. It's going to be beautiful. And they did. So.
Well, condolences to all the Parramatta fans out there.
Yeah, sorry.
I can't say I feel too sorry, but all good. All right. And this little bit smoother end of recording.